Welcome back to the Higher Volume. I'm Josh. Today we're going to have a full no spoilers review of Spider-Man Far From Home. I am literally minutes away from watching the movie. I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. Oh, that hurt. Hey guys, so I just got back from seeing Spider-Man Far From Home, and I gotta say, it's good. Yeah, it's decent. But before I get into the overall consensus of it, I'm gonna first give you the positives, then the negatives, and then the geeky. Positives. The MJ and Peter romance, I thought, I was like, oh, that one's gonna be a distraction to the plot. No, it worked well. It didn't, there was no expense of the plot, and it just coincided well, and it ended up cute. So another thing is Spider-Man. Now, obviously, he's the main character, the main hero, Peter Parker. How well did he do? How well did Tom Holland receive with this Spider-Man? And I gotta say, it was way better than what he did in Homecoming. You see, with Homecoming, not many people know this, but I didn't really like Homecoming. I saw Homecoming as a good movie, but a bad Spider-Man movie. You see, it didn't have the essential ideals that Spider-Man carried, the guilt, the right kind of humor, the impact that Spider-Man had. Every single time Spider-Man fights, he always gets let down by something. And that never really showed in Homecoming. But in this one, it is all there. And that's one of the main reasons why I liked Far From Home. I can say that Far From Home is way better than Homecoming. And also Mysterio. Mysterio being the partner in crime in this movie. His interpretation was done really well. I thought it was great. Quentin Beck interpreted into this film was something that I never thought of, that I never really was like, oh yeah, his motives can be predictable. His motives can be, kind of cliche if you know the character, but for just a movie fan, it's great. Jake Gyllenhaal brings this performance that is so excellent towards the MCU table, that he's just as good as Tom Holland, just as good as Robert Downey and any of the Avengers, and that element of Mysterio was great. Another thing is the cast, the side characters. The side characters were really focused on in this one, and they weren't just joking characters like some would say Baby Groot. Instead, they served the plot very well, and they weren't much of like a hassle or a distraction. Instead, it came off smooth, and especially with Ned leads, because with Ned in the past one, in Homecoming, we got this very humor, wacky kind of guy, but in this one we get sort of the same thing, but with a little bit more depth in it. And Nick Fury and Maria Hill and all the others that show up, all the supporting characters, even the teacher, they're great. They are great characters added into the Spider-Man lore, added into the MCU, and I really liked it. Overall, this movie is way better in total regards to Homecoming. I think Homecoming, though, has the better villain, has the better prologue, and has the better, I would say, pacing. Let's go into the negatives of the film. So, the negatives, basically the pacing. The pacing is a big one. It was kind of all over the place. At one point you have humor, and then another point you have seriousness, and sometimes it didn't really blend. And I know that's Spider-Man. I know that he's supposed to be humorous and wacky, but at the same time, when you're putting so much depth and so much high stakes into the character and in the story, you need to learn how to blend them all together. And another problem was the prologue. You'll see when you see the movie, if none of you have, is that the prologue is so quick and out of place. It just happens. And you'll see what I mean when you see the movie. It just happens. And another negative, with Mysterio, Mysterio is supposed to come off as this partner in crime, as this ally to Spider-Man. But yet, this dude just shows up out of nowhere like, hey bro, I'm here, you know? And that's not really, I don't know, there should have been more time to develop that character. I'm not saying that he's bad, because he isn't at all. He's his own thing, and he just shows up out of nowhere. So, another negative is the CGI. It's one of the worst CGI effects I've seen in the MCU, almost topping the bad CGI in Black Panther. There's a lot of scenes in there that have so much, computer elements, especially the elementals. It's all computerized, and sometimes it just looks like a PS3 game, especially with the suits. Spidey's suit and Mysterio's suit look like computerized PS3 graphics, and that really took me out of the moment at some points. So that's enough for the negatives. Let's get into the geeky stuff. I'm not gonna go into spoilers. It's still gonna be spoiler free, but the portrayals of the characters, for Spider-Man, like I said previously, the guilt and all that is there, but it's still not Peter. It's still not Peter Parker. It's still not the essential Spider-Man. Instead, it's the MCU's version of Spider-Man. And with Mysterio, he's an ally in this one. He's interpreted very differently. And, some people might be like, some comic book fans might be like, well, that's not Mysterio at all. And the thing is, yes, but also it works for the plot. It really does. I really loved Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal in it. That's one of the biggest key issues. And another big thing, one of the positives I left out was that the third act is amazing. I gotta tell you, the third act is the best Spidey action we've ever got in a film. Ever. Like, it beats the Raimi trilogy, it beats the Amazing Spider-Man sequels in all its glory. That third act is Spider-Man. Like, there are panels jumping up out of the comics and into the screen. I think that all these Spidey fans, if you're a Spidey fan and you've read the comics, you're going to really love that third act. It is just so great. Like, if you guys play the PS4 Spider-Man, all those cutscenes and all that, it's basically that on the screen, and I freaking loved it. Another thing is the world building. There is a lot of stuff that happens in this movie, in Far From Home, that sets up a lot of the world building for the MCU and for the future of the MCU. The way they coincide with everything, the way they mesh everything together, especially with Tony and the Avengers, it's just lovely. And I know some of you are probably wondering, you're like, well, is it still Iron Man Jr.? Is Spidey still Iron Man Jr.? And I gotta say, yes and no. There is a lot of reflection on Tony and, what happens to him in Endgame. But the thing is, at the same time, it really strays away from that. And that's the point of the movie, is that you need to be your own hero. And that Spidey, Peter Parker, needs to be his own hero. So, overall, I give this movie an 8 out of 10. It would be a 9, but the thing is, there's those negatives, man. Those negatives. And, yeah, that's basically it. So, if you haven't liked or subscribed, do so. Welcome to my channel if you're new. And make sure to leave a comment. I want to know what you guys thought about the movie. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me exactly what you think. Keep it spoiler free, and we'll see you next time. But it's still not the essential